What's cooking? New Orleans, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, North Shore, Biloxi, Tangipahoa, Dulac. How y'all doing? This is not Dwayne Stein. I'm James Parker sitting in for Dwayne Stein. Let me tell you about a little bit about Mortgage Gumbo. Let me tell you a little bit about what Dwayne does his day job. Dwayne's out. He's in Vegas. Now, it's supposedly for work, and I'm using the big hand air quotes, for work. Isn't it funny when they have these very important and useful, sales training conventions, and they happen to have it in Vegas, right? Notice they didn't have it in Casper, Wyoming. Notice they didn't have it way off in the boonies. They didn't have it in Macomb, Mississippi. No, they have it in Vegas. Oh yeah, see, we need a big airport. We need lots of hotel space. We can't have thousands of people in the mortgage industry flying all over the country to go stay in someplace like Homa. No, so yeah, I get it. You had to go to Vegas. It's for business. Business dictates it. It's poor guy. This is what he's willing to do for you to stay on top of the game, to keep apprised of all the best trends that are going on in the mortgage industry. He is willing to go to Vegas and not have to work on the weekends because this is a fun job. Everyone loves working on Saturdays. No one gripes about having to shed some of your weekend. Dave loves it. Dave, we offered for Dave over there in the producer booth. Like, dude, you don't have to work on Saturdays anymore. He's like, you don't understand. I love it. Why would I want to spend time with my loved ones and my family and relax and recreate on a Saturday when I could be here pushing buttons?
I'd be lost. I'd be lost without coming here.
It feels weird that we work in a environment that involves double pane glass so often. It's like us and toll booth workers and the dude who works the really sketchy part of town gas station.
I never thought about the plight of the toll booth taker. I never thought of that.
It's not that different. I mean, your accommodations right now are about, slightly bigger than a toll booth, but toll booth nonetheless. Anyway, so Dwayne and I have been working together for God knows how when did he start? Probably 8 years or so.
Yeah, I think he just celebrated his 7th, going on 8th coming up.
Well, that's the anniversary for his show. You got to remember he was a regular guest on my previous show for 2 years before that. So I think we're up to 9 years. So I recently moved though, and this was the second time I bought a house, and the first time it was in 2012, and I was literally moving like 3 blocks from where I was staying with my in-laws over in Lakeview. And it's your first time to buy a home, and I didn't know Dwayne then. I seriously, I think I had just met him like a week before I bought a house, and so much has changed in the last 10 years. I lived in that house for 10 straight years, and I remember the whole process. I don't want to say the whole process, but most of it was handled by my wife, and so I was involved. I had to cough up documents constantly and be asked questions a bunch. But when someone had a question, they called my wife because I was working like 8 jobs at the time. I'm down to like 6 now. So this time when we bought the house, I was going to go through Dwayne, and since Dwayne and I are friends, like we don't just work together. We're not pretending to be nice to each other on the radio. We're actually friends. I called him, dude, you're doing my loan. You're going to give me a deal? He's like, well, I'm only legally allowed to do so much, but yes, I'll take care of you. And so it was a whole process here, but I was the guy who held the reins this time. And it was so complicated as far as the paperwork that has to go along with it, and then everything along the way has to be explained to me. It probably has to be explained to you too, unless you're in the mortgage business. But look, I understand what it means to buy a point, I think, and we're going to go over some of these. I pull highlight clips. This is what I like to do when I fill in for other people, is play sort of their highlight reel. And so there was this one part of the mortgage process where I had to be explained what a point is, and I kind of remembered this segment on this show. And so when he was explaining the point to me, he was kind of doing the segment that he had done on this show. And after about 10 of these conversations that you just necessarily have to have with any mortgage guy who's going to be doing a good, thorough job for you, I realize so many of the segments that he does on this show are just recreations of the conversations that he has to have with most, probably close to all of the people who go through the mortgage process with him. And look, there's going to be different set of questions, whether you're getting a construction loan that rolls into a mortgage loan, or if you're doing a refi, or if you're doing a reverse mortgage, or if you're doing a reverse purchase, or if you're buying a first home or a second home or a vacation home or a beach home or a condo or a townhome. I'm sure these all have different sets of questions. And I wasn't asked a lot of them, but now I kind of like slap myself in the forehead, like, duh, thinking back, there's so many of these segments that he puts together. And if he just sounds like he gets in here and flows, it's because I now see what he's doing. He has the template for all of these regular conversations that he's probably had hundreds, if not thousands of times. And he has put them in almost a teacher format. So he goes through and tries to tell you the story, and he also tries to get in all these bullet points, and it's, I don't want to say it's professorial, but like when you had the good teachers who wouldn't just tell you A plus B equals C, they would tell you the story behind why A plus B equals C, and they would try and be entertaining and amusing and interesting and not monotonous and boring. I see what he's doing because uh I've been privy to many of these shows. I have listened to probably more than half of the Mortgage Gumbo episodes that have ever been created. And I recognize that. I was there was about 10 different times where I'm like, "Oh, he's had this conversation hypothetically with you, not Dave, but you guy listening over the air, and he's done it for almost 10 years." And so I actually pulled a few of these segments. Like, what is the point? We're going to do that later in the show, because one of the amazing, I am just the luckiest, just falling backwards into luck dude as far as the home buying process goes. I closed on my house New Year's weekend. So you can basically say from December 20 through 2021, I was in my old house. Starting right at 2022, just calendar year, I'm in my new house. I had great credit. I mean, I think I still do, but at the time, I had great credit. Wife had great credit, but we qualified for a low interest rate. We were able to, with no cash out of our pocket, it was just tacked onto the end of the loan, buy a point. And when he says buy a point, this is one of the things that's going to be explained to you. We're not buying like a whole point. We're not going like, if I think I qualified for like a 3.3% interest rate. I know it sounds magic now, doesn't it? And buying a point, just adding a few $1,000 to the end of the principal there on the loan itself, nothing out of pocket. We got me down. I this almost feels criminal at this point. I mean, it's amazing. 6 months later, just a little more than 6 months later, how almost criminal this sounds. I have a mortgage at 2.95%. 2.95%. That's the hookup. And I'm like, Dwayne, you're not losing money on this or anything. He's like, listen, I'm not doing anything the rules don't let me do. He's like, I'm not a bartender. I can't just like serve you extra drinks. I mean, we're dealing with mortgages here. Everything's documented. I can't really like hook you up because you're my friend. These are similar deals I give everybody. Like, this is, I'm not allowed to do such things. And so I was listening to him since then on a few shows, and you just hear it tick up, and then it ticks up a little bit more, and then it ticks up a little bit more. And then in this last week, oh, it ticked up a lot. I'm looking at a CNBC article. The date on this is 4 days ago. A 30-year mortgage just a week ago was 5.5%. It jumped. What is that? 73 basis points. It is now 6.28%. Do you hear that? 6.28%. And I got mine at what? 2.5. You were waiting. Someone out there, it might be you, probably not, but just think there's someone out there who's saying should have struck while the iron's hot. They've been thinking of getting a new house, or they've been thinking of doing a refi, or they've been thinking of doing a cash out refinance. And if you do the math, 2.95 to 6.28%, that's more than double. That's huge. And the rate was just 5.5 a week ago, 5.55 a week ago. Now the rates have been going up basically since the day I bought my house. That's why I just feel like I'm the luckiest dumb. I might as well go buy a lottery ticket. I did not deserve this. I did not do anything right. We moved because my wife got a new job and we wanted to live closer to her job so she wouldn't have so much of a commute. And I just happened to fall into an absolute bed of roses, not the bushes with the thorns and all. I mean, like someone pulled off the petals and chucked them in my bed, and I just fell happily into that. Like they gave you that gas, they gave me that gas at the dentist, and I got all loopy, and they pushed me on the bed. That's what signing my mortgage was like. When I turn around and I look at 6.28% was the number that they reported on Tuesday, and this is having a sharp effect on the housing market. Home sales have now fallen for 6 straight months, according to the National Association of Realtors. And is it going to go back down to 2.95%? Hey, it might. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I don't know. It seems possible, probable, different story. So 30-year fixed mortgage, 6.28% as of Tuesday. Those of you who are waiting to refi, those of you who are thinking about taking some of that equity out of your house because you're going to remodel your house, or you're going to do an add-on, or you're going to pay for your kids' college, or you're going to do something smart with it, start a business, keep something going. Maybe it was maybe it was to deal with some of the fallout from the economic turmoil that we're going through right now. You're missing the boat. Is it going to go higher than this? It might. Is it going to stay here? It might. Is it going to go down? It might. The thing is we really don't know. Dwayne can come in here and he can explain to you in a really good fashion why these rates would continue to go up. He can also explain to you why, if we turn around in 3 months and rates have gone down, why he's not going to be surprised if that happens either. He can also tell you they'll probably stay the same and reach some sort of new homeostasis like this. Maybe this is the equilibrium they like, 6.28, 6.3, maybe 6.25. Maybe it'll stay in this area. But nobody knows. They have good guesses and they can probably predict it and predict it more accurately than I could, but they don't know. That's like saying I know who's going to win the baseball game tomorrow. That's like saying I know who's going to win the Super Bowl. You might get it right, but you didn't know. So for those of you who were waiting, you feel like maybe you missed the boat, I think you have to treat it as you missed the boat. I think you have to look at this and look, don't blame yourself and don't say, oh man, I really screwed the pooch. Shouldn't have done that. Don't beat yourself up. That's not the point of all this. The point of all this is you really do have to reevaluate your plans, and you really do have to reevaluate. Maybe you're not going to add on to your house now. Maybe this is the math. Because look, I'm not saying this does apply to you, but for every project out there, there's a budget and there's a return on investment. And whenever you have the cost of money come up, it pushes the threshold below that number in some of the cases. That makes it no longer a profitable, or maybe not profitable enough to have to go through the rigmarole of adding on or remodeling or putting on a second story or paying off some credit card debt. So some of you, we're going to find out soon enough, but some of you very well may have missed a great boat. I am lucky to be on that boat. I feel like the bad guy in Titanic. I don't deserve to be here. I did nothing to get this 2.95% interest rate, except my wife just had to move at the right time. And I happen to know of Dwayne. I happened to give him a call. And Dwayne and I are friends, absolutely. But his business is not so big that if you call, you won't talk to him. You'll get to talk to him. And he did to me what he would probably do to you. I got handed off to Sam. And Sam was the guy that just walked me through the rote process. They have a playbook that we go through. Let's get all the documents, Let's see what your situation is. Let's go through your taxes so we can figure out what loans you qualify for and what where we stand with credit. And then we have to start picking out like what I want. What do you want? A 30-year mortgage? You want a 15-year mortgage? And so Sam was the one that actually walked me through the process. But you hear Sam on this show too. If you're a regular listener to Mortgage Gumbo, you know who Sam is. Sam shows up a lot on the show. I had Sam. Yeah, these guys on the radio. This is actually who you're dealing with. And it was great just having a human being, because the whole time I'm going through this, I'm thinking, both for the realtor and for the mortgage person, what if I tried to do this by myself? Could I do this by myself? I'm a smart guy. I'm an accomplished. I'm not an idiot. I'm not like these mutants you see when you're waiting to renew your license at the DMV. No, I wear shoes every day. Damn it. Well, most days. No, don't want to do it by myself. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the you people that do the for sale by owners. You people are brave, because the what was going on with my realtor and the other realtor, and that seemed like a whole level of complexity. And then I sure as heck, no one can do the mortgage by themselves, but to have the wrong people, to not have the a correct level of help, would be a pain in the butt. Because look, I'm a busy guy. I have a bunch of jobs, and so I'm constantly being asked for documents from various entities. And Sam would intercede on my behalf. See, Sam already got all my documents when I went to the mortgage place. And he got copies of them and he put them in a side little folder. And when he was on email chains where people would ask me for something, if he had the document, he would submit it. And there was twice when there was a document request while I'm in the middle of working. I'm sometimes on an airplane, sometimes in a recording session, a lot of times in the middle of a show on the air, where you can't deal with the outside world when you're doing a radio show. So for 3 hours a day during this process, I was on the air, and I'm not taking calls, I'm not sending emails, I'm not digging documents up. I really don't have the time. I can't do that. Sam did it for me twice. Before I even read the email, it had become an email chain where someone asked for a document. Sam saw it, dug it out, emailed it to them, said, "Got anything else you need?" And by the time he already has the document back in their hands, I'm now reading the first email. So service was key. Service was um, a luxury. Not everyone does that. Not everyone has a Sam that gets assigned to your case. And not everyone that does assign someone to your case has someone like Sam. There's probably other people who see the email chain. They're like, yeah, he'll probably see it and send him the document. I don't have to worry about that. He has that document. I know he has that document because he sent it to me. No, they just went ahead and cut out the process and got it moving on their behalf. The amazing thing about working with Dwayne is he had the loan clear to close in 13 days. I'll continue with the story about my purchase, my experience with Mortgage Gumbo. Recently bought a house, and hope you don't mind if I say it again, bragging, 2.95%. It's so delicious. So delicious. Right now, mortgage rates are at 6.28%. I'll continue with this story, and we're going to talk about Jerome Powell raising rates. Then I'll play you some highlights coming up from previous shows. I'm James Parker, in for Dwayne Stein, along with some of the worst bumper music possible. This is Mortgage Gumbo.
10 seconds.
How many seconds?
Well, 3 now.
I can't dance, I can't talk. The only thing about me is the way that I walk.
Welcome to the show with the worst bumper music in the history of radio. This is Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein. I'm James Parker, sitting in for Dwayne Stein. How you doing? Dwayne is in Vegas, working hard for you, keeping his skills sharp, learning about the changes in the mortgage industry and how to be a better person in his business for you to better serve you. And look, I can't complain about it. These things are useful. These things are they essential? Probably. You can't be skipping too many of these conventions because the rules change every year for mortgages. There's new tweaks, there's new turns, and then sometimes there's big, giant legislative changes. There's new paperwork that's always being added. And I don't think there's a whole lot taken away. That was part of my experience when I bought my first house in 2012. They brought up what looked like phone books. Remember when phone books used to exist? It looked like a Metairie phone book. When I got my mortgage this time around earlier this year, it looked like a New Orleans phone book, just a little bit bigger. Same giant pile of paper, just a little bit bigger. Well, he knows what all those pages are, and it's funny because he told me there was a walkthrough process that they give you, sort of not as close to an exit interview, where they're like, okay, when you're going into your closing, this is what you expect. You're going to get this. And so they're explaining all that. And Sam's like, and when we get to this page, you're going to ask this question. And when we get to this page, you're going to ask this question. The rest of it, you can just sign it. So it's really cool how they have it all broken down. But look, I go to talk radio conventions to find out what's new and going on. Like, James, what's new about talking into microphone? Well, not a whole lot new about talking into the microphone, but the way I'm like streaming this right now to YouTube, and I'm not on Facebook because I didn't have Dwayne sign in. I could sign into his restream, so I am streaming to his Twitter, his LinkedIn, his YouTube, his Instagram. Oh no, Instagram wasn't able to connect, but I'm missing Facebook right now, and so I feel adequately guilty, if that helps. But yeah, that's where he's at. He might do a call in, but can you blame him if he doesn't? Working on a Saturday in Vegas. I mean, he's already there for work as it is. Now he's got to call into a show. I wouldn't begrudge him any if we missed it. Now, when I was going through my process, I called Mortgage Gumbo. I think I went to mortgagegumbo.com actually, because there's that, and his other big website is Snap, Send, and Save. And those are your two big options there. But yeah, I went to mortgagegumbo.com and gave him a call and got assigned to Sam. And when we're going through the process, there was a hiccup. I had a real estate agent on this side who I didn't know anybody in the town to where I was moving. So I just, when I found a house online, they basically recommended a realtor, like, hey, you got to go through this lady. Fine, I'll go through this lady. And she made a boo-boo. And then she didn't want to fix it. And I didn't want to have to sit there and call people and make 6 different phone calls and wait for people to call me back or give me a text or email. I was traveling. I was broadcasting in this town. Then I'll get in a plane and I'll fly to Dallas. So I broadcast from there. And then I get in a plane, I'll fly back and I broadcast from my home studio. And, things get a little wild every once in a while, especially if you have sort of a transient job like mine. And Mortgage Gumbo went to bat for me. They got it all fixed. And look, it wasn't a big deal, but when she is showing me the home and she's giving me her little round of questions, her battery of and it's natural, the discovery, the information gathering process. Realtors need to do that. She did not ask me if my loan was going to be a contingency loan, and I didn't think anything of it. I had been asked 88 questions before that, and I thought maybe she got her own bases covered. And even if she doesn't ask me, it's something she could ask Sam, or she could ask Dwayne, or maybe she can find out some other way, or I don't know. But I didn't think anything about it. And then when it was time to set the dates for close, it was kind of a mess because Dwayne had done his job in like 13, 14 days. I had a clear to close. and we had to wait like another almost 2 weeks for the other mortgage company and title company and them to get all their paperwork managed. And so when we were working on the date for the clear to close, they were saying that we might have to push it back another day because that other group didn't have their stuff together. Dwayne was ready to go. Dwayne been ready to go. And we're like, okay, well then we would have to move Dwayne's closing, because if it's a contingency, then we have to close on the same day, basically, and we have to do my sale first before I have the money for the down payment, because I'm not walking around with 60 grand in my pocket. I know you're not shocked about that. And so we had to close that the sale on my Lakeview house, so we'd have the down payment for my next house, and we could do that like 2 hours apart on the same day, but we would have to scoot them both back. And so told her, hey, will you ask them about maybe scooting the date back on this close, because the contingency setup's not lining up, because the other group's taking a little long, might take a little longer than previously scheduled. And so she was trying to talk me out of finding some other way to do the loan. And then she got mad because I didn't tell her it was a contingency loan. I was like, well, you didn't ask. And I didn't know that was a deal. And I thought, even if you don't ask me, you didn't ask my mortgage guy. You didn't ask Sam. You've been in contact with him, asking him for all kinds of paperwork. I've seen the email chains go back and forth. You just never thought to ask. Just didn't. And so it was something that got cleared up by Dwayne. We bring in the big guns, and it's funny how Sam is. I don't want to say it was a good cop, bad cop scenario, but Sam knows everything about the business inside and out. But he's not the boss. He's not the chief. It's not his name on the door. So it's funny when he just recognizes, all right, you're not going to listen to me, then you're going to have to talk to Dwayne. And then Dwayne shows up, and Dwayne tells everybody what's going to happen, and then tells them to do it, and everyone just did it, and it was fine. And it worked out that they actually got their stuff together on the other house sale, the other mortgage people that the other group was using, and we actually all got the close on time. But it's funny. It's funny. It's like when your teacher can tell you to behave, but when the principal shows up, all of a sudden, there's an air of seriousness and gravitas that just wasn't there before. Now, was it? And I think it was also a good training scenario for my young fledgling realtor to learn a lesson the hard way, because clearly we know who boo-booed, and it was kind of embarrassing, but we didn't harp on it. Hey, I got to close on the house. I got to close on time. Everything went through cool. Yes, I do have good credit, but there was a whole process with that contingency loan, so I can do the sale, then have the down payment, and then within hours, I'm in another town at another desk with the powers of attorneys. My wife's signing for me in New Orleans. I'm signing for my wife over here at the new house. It was a cool, very complex process. And look, buying and selling a house, moving, putting everything you own in a box and taking it to a new place and unpacking it is not a fun process, but it was definitely made easier by Dwayne Stein. And what you hear on this show is not bogus. Coming up next, I'm going to play you where he describes what a point is, because that was actually useful to me when I bought my house at the beginning of the year, and it's saving me a buttload constantly, especially when you see what's going on with the interest rates. God, this is the worst bumping music. So yeah, what's a point? And you're going to hear from Jerome Powell raising rates 0.75% this week, Federal Reserve, yada, yada, yada. I'm James Parker, in for Dwayne Stein. This is Mortgage Gumbo.
Each other for so long. Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say.
Never gonna give you up. Oh, dude. So I interviewed Rick Springfield yesterday, and
That's
man, he was.
awesome.
Yeah, no, unfortunately.
No.
No, he was, dude. Like, it's so crazy because, like, when I bring him on, like, they were already 2 hours late. So something had happened behind the scenes. I don't know what, but like, I was supposed to interview him at 9:15. I didn't get him till like 11:30. And so, like, I'm doing my intro. All right, Rick Springfield joins us. Like, I'm doing the whole Grammy nominated, Grammy award winning guitarist and actor, blah, blah, blah. Get him all
Blah, blah,
hyped.
blah.
And yeah, and he's all like, wow. I wish I had that kind of energy. I'm like, well, get some, Rick. Come on, let's talk about your new tour. He's like, yeah, I'm going on tour. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, it's going to be that kind of interview. It was just like
Mhm.
one sentence answers and just like sounded like Eeyore the whole time. Yeah, I made some good songs, but who cares? I was just like, God dang it.
See that I feel for these people because for me or for you, this is the one time you get to talk to Rick Springfield. For them, this is the
Right.
8,000th radio
Yeah, like
DJ that he doesn't
Jeremy
know.
Piven. Like, I was all stoked to talk to Jeremy Piven,
But
from
you guys all
PCU.
ask him the same question.
Oh no, I didn't. I think I ended up pissing him off.
What's it like working with Adrian Greener or whatever?
I forgot what I asked him, but he was just kind of like, huh? It was some off the wall thing. All right, 30 seconds. But yeah, no, because I know that everybody's asking the same stupid thing. I mean, I bet everybody asked Rick Springfield about Jesse's Girl because, it's Jesse's Girl.
Yeah,
I pulled up The Human Touch, he even played it, and he's like, oh yeah, that was a good song.
appreciate your enthusiasm, Rick.
I know, right? 10 seconds.
Wow, this is bad too. All right. Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein is the show. I'm James Parker sitting in for the great Dwayne Stein. MortgageGumbo.com. If you are needing to have a whole big pile of money for something involving a house, this is the guy you call usually. So if you're buying a house, if you want to refinance a house, if you want to get a cash out, like if you want to get a cash equity, dip into some of that, cash out refinance. If you want to do a reverse mortgage, if you want to do a reverse purchase, heck, he can even give you, if there's not a no, if you're not in a place to buy a house, he will give you the path on how you get there, with your credit score and whatnot. He's pretty good at credit repair stuff too. But my friendship and my business association with Dwayne Stein paid off in a way that it can pay off just for you. When I was buying a house at the beginning of the year, I used him. And I can tell you, 6 months later, I could not be happier with it. When you just look at the interest rate alone, yeah, he helped me through the process. Yeah, he helped me shuffle the documents because I'm an inherently unorganized slob. And that's okay. Look, I'm a creative type. I'm not supposed to be all organized. But he stepped in and made what would have been a painful process for me quite a bit less painful. It wasn't fun. There's nothing fun about going through all the paperwork of buying a house and moving and getting a loan. But now that I see that this week, the interest rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage, according to CNBC and the National Association of Realtors, 6.28%. I got mine at 2.95. I got part of that magic because me and the wife have pretty good credit, and we automatically qualified for something that was, I think it was 3.3. It might have been 3.35. But Dwayne just comes in and he sort of tells you, hey, you're going to want to buy a point down. The math on your situation is ridiculous because it would take you down to a 2.95. And it only adds, I forgot what the number was, but it added a few thousand. But I don't have to come up with that money. It just gets tacked on to the principal at the end of the loan. And so he's like, when you do the math, listen, that's a 0.4% move. And when you look at, the size of your loan, your loan's like going to be a 3% loan. So that's more than 10% of a cut on your interest. And let's just do some quick math. This is how much it'll save you, even if you sell like 10 years later. This is what the math will look like. It's a no brainer. So I didn't know really. I'd heard him talking about buying a point on the show before, and I try and remember all the stuff, but we don't have perfect memories. And so this is the segment I was thinking of. I went home and I have archives and highlights of Mortgage Gumbo because we've been working together for a long time. I went and found this segment from January 27th, 2018, where he explains what a point is. And this is what got me to a 2.95% mortgage rate.
Mortgage Gumbo with your chef, Dwayne Stein.
Interest rates going up, folks. I want to make sure that you're educated. I want to talk to you about something that's called a point. Okay, point, P-O-I-N-T. So number one, let me give you the definition. I'm going to read it verbatim. A point is a fee that is equal to 1% of your loan amount. Okay, so a point is something that you could use to take advantage. There's two types of points. But I want folks to understand that while rates are going up, hey, there may be some ways when you're doing a refinance or a purchase where you can use points to your advantage. Okay, so there are two types of points. Okay, there's what's called an origination point and a discount point. Okay, an origination point is a charge by the lender, which is your cost of making the loan. Okay. Years ago, Obama administration passed where everything falls under origination now. So it looks like a point on your, so even if somebody's going, hey, no points, no discount, no points or anything like that, you still have origination and it falls underneath origination point. Here's the beauty of origination. And I want you to be aware of that. So if you see that on your loan estimate or your closing disclosure, the origination points or fee is tax deductible. Okay, if it was used to obtain the mortgage. Okay, and so I want you to understand. So origination point is a tax deductible thing that you can get on your taxes when you're purchasing a home. Okay, so understand that. Now, origination point is
3 minutes.
Is not tax deductible if you're using that to buy closing costs or do something like that. So keep that in mind. But let's get into something that I use and that a lot of my folks, when they come in, talk about and using, especially when it comes to refinances or purchases, and that is what's called a discount point. Okay, that is where you prepay the interest on your mortgage. Okay, a point is usually 1% of the loan. So if you come to me and you're buying a $150,000 house and I go, hey, the rate's 4.25%. And you go, well, I want to look at lowering my interest rate. So to buy a point, depending on what your credit score is and different things like that, it's always going to cost you. One full point is always going to cost you 1%. But it depends on credit scores, which is going to see how much it gets your rate down. So, for example, for what we're doing right now, let's say you're at 4.25 and you come to me and go, I want to buy a point. On that $150,000, that $1,500 may get your rate down from 4.25, drop it all the way down to 4%, which may save you $20, $30. So then we got to look at how long are you going to be in the house? Is that worth it to you over the long haul? So I want folks to understand when you're talking to me or when you're talking to your lender, ask them about points, especially if you have equity. Nothing even has to come out of your pocket. So there's advantages that can be there. So when should I consider a point? Hey, on a purchase, is it your final house? Are you looking to lower your closing costs? Maybe you got a credit score and your credit score challenged, but you've got some disposable money. Let's buy that rate down. On a refinance, hey, again, you've got equity. It doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. And you know this is probably the last house you're going to be in for a while, or you just want to get the lower rate while you're in that house, then look at doing a discount point.
1 minute.
So don't be afraid. Point doesn't have to be a 4-letter word. And that's why I want to share it. A point is a good thing. Number one, some of it, depending on how you use it, is tax deductible, but it can be used to lower your mortgage payment.
Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein on demand in the iHeartRadio app and mortgagegumbo.com.
All right, so that was the highlight from January 27th, 2018. And that was not just some abstract segment for me earlier this year. I actually bought down my point. And if I do the math, if I didn't have a 2.95% mortgage rate that Dwayne got me, and I got the mortgage rate that Jerome Powell has brought us to here, and it's not directly his fault, but you know what I'm saying. 6.28% is which is where a 30-year mortgage was this week as of Tuesday. That's a little over $400 a month difference. And it's not just for me, so I can go get a sports car. I mean, this is lifestyle changing stuff for my family. This is the difference between my kids having a bunch of extracurriculars. This is the difference between me and being able to save money for retirement or for a rainy day. This is the difference between steak and ramen noodles. So it's that legit. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear from Jerome Powell as he announces a giant rate hike. Another historic move. We hadn't had a 0.75 basis point jump in the interest rate since I don't know, God knows when. So, and I promise there's more horrible bumper music on the way. Well, this doesn't count as horrible, Eddie Rabbit. I'm James Parker, sitting in for Dwayne Stein, who's roughing it in Vegas right now for you. He's willing to do that for you. You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo.
But I love a rainy night.
I love a rainy night. I love a rainy night.
How long is this last segment?
So we're coming back in 30 seconds. We go out at 59.50, so I'll start bumping you at 59.
What does that give me, like 8 minutes?
So yeah, about 9 minutes. Yeah, no, yeah, about 9 minutes. Here we go.
All right, Dave. This is a truly awful song. You win on this one. I'm James Parker, in for Dwayne Stein. You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo. MortgageGumbo.com is a website that you can ignore most days, but when you need it, MortgageGumbo.com is a cauldron of magic, and the sorcerer behind the cauldron is Dwayne Stein, because it was something that look, I've worked with for and on Mortgage Gumbo since its inception. I've been with Dwayne since before Mortgage Gumbo even existed. But there's been one and only one time when I've needed a loan during that entire span. And what an amazing feat. What an amazing accomplishment it was. Look, I don't know. Maybe I could have gone to some other mortgage company and gotten the same sort of treatment and the same sort of service, but I can tell you firsthand that I know I got it with the Mortgage Gumbo. Let me brag one more time. And if you're sick of hearing it, that's too bad. I'm not sick of saying it. I got a 2.95% mortgage at the beginning of this year. And I just struck while the iron was hot, not because I'm smart, but because my wife got a new job and we wanted to move closer to it. That's the only reason I got this lucky. Interest rates are now at 6.28%. That's the average 30-year mortgage. It was in CNBC and the National Association of Realtors. 6.28%. It's more than double what I just got. For just a few $1,000, I was able to buy down a point. It's magic. I'm ecstatic with it. Like, I know I sound like some sort of hack commercial paid placement, but this is not. I am not a paid spokesman for Mortgage Gumbo. I am telling you what happened for me, James Parker, in my real life, for me and my wife and my 4 kids. Now, if you're upset about interest rates going up, there's no reason to expect them to go down. We had Jerome Powell raise the federal funds rate by a historic measure this week. Let's listen to about 30 seconds of his explanation here.
It is essential that we bring inflation down if we are to have a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. From the standpoint of our congressional mandate to promote maximum employment and price stability, the current picture is plain to see. The labor market is extremely tight and inflation is much too high. Against this backdrop, today the Federal Open Market Committee raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point and anticipates that ongoing increases in that rate will be appropriate. In addition, we are continuing the process of significantly reducing the size of our balance sheet.
See, I don't like this. I mean, again, I do like the fact that interest rates are going back to something normal, but I don't like this explanation for interest rates going up and inflation ramping up, because there's only so much the Fed can do when it comes to inflation, because the reverberations that are felt because of inflation, that seismic quake, the epicenter of that is not Fed policy. The thing that is causing the inflation more than anything else is the ridiculous amount of spending that's coming out of DC. It's just down the road from them. You got to go down to Congress for that. They control the purse. The president signs off on it. And the last 2 presidents have both signed off on this. So both of you big parties are equally guilty. Y'all love deficit spending. And look, when the Fed has to monetize the debt, that increases the money supply. And that's the literal definition of inflation. You can kind of say, well, look, the price of gas is going to come down. So, the inflation isn't hurting gas prices. Well, look, no. See, now you're mixing words and you're starting to use some of the slippery definitions that they use out of DC. You know what inflation is. You know that it's when they increase the money supply, and they can try and sop some of it up by increasing interest rates with the federal funds rate and trying to get some money out of circulation. But it's not quite the same thing, and it can only do so much. And when you have a hole in the boat, maybe you can try and bucket some of that water out as fast as you can. But when the hole is as big as it is, you might as well just be bailing water with a thimble. And that's what this is. Now, interest rates shouldn't have been at 0 for about a decade like they have been. We are going to feel the negative consequences of that starting right now. We don't know what all of them are, but there is some economic theories that are going to be written in the next few years, because what happens when you have the price of money, the availability of money at 0 for that long? Well, there are a lot of predictions out there. For one thing, how on earth is the bond market going to do anything but get crushed as interest rates go up? We had a decade of bonds being issued in a 0% environment. Now, the bonds themselves weren't 0%, but think about, remember when your grandma had a CD at the bank that was paying 6% or 9% interest or something livable, and now they're paying like 0.8% or something ridiculously low? Remember how you used to get 3% on your checking account at the bank? Your savings account probably got like 4%. Some of that's going to start coming back. So we are going to be changing the game as interest rates go up. You're going to create an environment that rewards savers and punishes people who take on debt. It punishes debt holders. Now, use that reverse engineering to think about what the environment has been basically since they slammed the rates around the 2008 financial crisis around zero. They tried to do liftoff a couple times, but they ended up putting them right back down. You mean to tell me for the last almost 15 years, we've been punishing people who save money and incentivizing people to take out debt? And when you change that incentive structure, that means you can necessarily take out more riskier loans, and more of risky loans. And so things are going to start blowing up in people's faces. That's what a recession is, when people get overextended and the snake has to shed its old skin. That's what a recession is. We have to shake off all that malinvested investment that was incentivized by excruciatingly low interest rates. But we're gonna have a tough time because we really don't know what the long term, really medium term impact is going to be on the bond markets. But we are going to find out now. Now, Jerome Powell can do whatever he wants with this interest rate, but he can only do so much to stop inflation. And when the market seems to like, or at least there's a chatter in the market when I flip through CNBC and Fox Business and read across several websites, that whether or not this technically has a big effect on the market and a big effect on interest rates and things that ripple down to your mortgage rate or to, if you get a refinance or even your credit card rates. There's only so much this dude can do to stop inflation. And if they're going to keep running $1 trillion deficits from here to disappearing over the horizon as far as the eye can see, you really have no real reason to believe inflation is going to slow down much. It might slow down a little bit, but is it going to stop? No. No one has any plans for inflation to stop. In fact, they say they aim for 2% inflation. Thanks. Oh, thank you. You're only stealing 2% of my assets every year. What a gift. If you ask me what it needs to be zero. We don't need to have some random gray-haired dude in D.C. controlling the federal funds rate. These things should be left a little bit more open to market conditions. And while there's a boom and bust cycle could happen under those conditions, well, it's guaranteed to happen under the current system, and it keeps happening over and over, and it's painful. That big bust that we had in 2008, that was painful. This big bust that we're having in the stock market. What's your IRA done this year? Because mine's gotten beat like the first 10 minutes of a Rocky fight. And it was Rocky. Not the part where he comes back and wins, but you know how he always has to get beat down. So there's good news and bad news here. Good news is interest rates are returning more to normal, what they should be. The bad news is it's going to rock the market all the way back up. As we pay the price for the easy money policies, we pay the price for all those free checks we got over the last 2 years, as we pay the price for the deficit spending, which is intergenerational theft. Let's take out some debt. Let's take some money that our grandkids are going to have to pay off. We'll spend it on ourselves today. These are not virtuous, good statecraft policies, and we are going to pay for them, and that's what we're doing now. And so if you're going to go through this process, if you're going to have to deal with these giant numbers that come with a mortgage or a refi or a reverse mortgage, start with Dwayne Stein, mortgagegumbo.com, 504-207-7600. I'm James Parker. It has been an honor to fill in for Dwayne Stein. This has been Mortgage Gumbo.